Hey, hey, how are you?
Is that really you?
It's really me.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm fine. Well, this is really me too. Good
Pleased to
morning.
meet you.
Cheers.
We both have our coffee, huh?
Yes, we do. Thank goodness. The meds, the all important meds.
The most important part of the interview is when you brew the coffee. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to be welcoming someone who has brought a joyful noise to us. Kate Taylor is a singer, songwriter, performing, and recording artist. Her debut album, Sister Kate, which was produced by Peter Asher, came out in 1971. Now, in the year 2021, she decided to commemorate that, and she has returned with producer Peter Asher yet again. And I have to say, this is a joyous album entitled Why Wait? Why Wait? Exclamation point. And the album features some great musicians: Russ Kunkel, Leland Sklar, Waddy Wachtel. I could keep on going. There's some great songs, some originals. There's a Taj Mahal song, a Beatles song, a Little Feat song, an Ed Sheeran song, a song from her brother James. And I'm so pleased to welcome you here.
I'm delighted to be here with you, Paul. Finally, we,
Well,
we have the connection. It's amazing how the technology, isn't it wonderful that we get to do this?
it is. And are you in Massachusetts right now?
I am. Yes, we did an in-store. Peter has written a book about the Beatles A to Z. Lots of great stories about the Beatles and his and songs and Leland has done a book about of photographs, which is stunningly beautiful. This great book, massive book with gorgeous, replicas of his pictures, and everybody in the picture is giving him the finger,
Yes.
and it's hilarious. And he has, the story of how it's also started is really, fascinating, and he's just a wonderful guy, and well, we did an in-store book signing, and I did a CD signing, and we got a chance to talk about all of that, and so that was in Brockton or in Plainville, Mass, and we're in Brockton right now. We're heading down to the Cape to do two shows this weekend.
A lot of exciting stuff going on.
So exciting. I mean, every day is a different story. It's really fun.
And I will confess, there is a picture out there somewhere of me and one of my fingers and Leland Sklar.
Oh my God, really excellent. Have you seen the book? You're probably in there.
I haven't seen it, but I know that picture's somewhere.
I know. He caught me off guard too. He I'm in there. I can't believe it. My mother would be horrified.
Mine too. I feel like this album, there's as I said, it's such a joyous. I mean, it's one of the more joyous albums I've ever heard. What
Oh,
what would you say the mood was that this album was made with?
well, the whole thing from the very sort of inception, of it has been a joyous ride. Working with Peter is well, there's just no one like him. He's brilliant and a wonderful producer. He hasn't those he won those Grammys for a reason. The guy just really knows how to listen, how to focus, how to wrangle a team. Get the different parts of a record. He has a oral vision of what he wants to hear, and he pulls it all together and with great grace and aplomb. And well, we started. Yeah, I've started kind of working with some shows with Peter because, well, we've always been in touch because he's a member of the family really after all the time he's worked with James and even just a little bit of time that he worked with me back in 70, 71. And we've remained close, although I watched from afar as he turned out all these incredible records, and for other folks. I always dreamed that someday maybe I'd get a chance to work with him again. Anyway, so he his manager is also my agent, and so Keith Putney, he had sort of realized that this was 2021 was the 50th anniversary of our working together on a recording, and so he kind of mentioned that to Peter, and Peter said, well, let's try to make this happen. And so then, of course, at this very same time, the pandemic happened, and our plans were kind of put on the sidelines. But at the same time, after a few months, we realized it made it possible for us to not only get together and record, but to use a lot of the same players that we'd used on the first record. Russ Kunkel and Leland Sklar and Danny Korchmar, and then we gathered other folks, the wonderful and amazing Albert Lee. I love him dearly, and also his guitar playing is just extraordinary. And Waddy Wachtel, same thing, lovely, amazing guy. So we got all these folks together, and we were able to, because they were all off the road. We were able to gather and in the same studio at the same time put these tracks together and make it happen. And there was a certain element of joy to all of it. Being able to be together, being able to make some music, just to kind of accomplish this sort of this dream. It is just it's the pieces of the puzzle just all fell together so beautifully. So, and then I think the song's choices, it just so happens that a lot of them are these joyous tunes, but it's been a great experience. It's been wonderful. And now to be doing some shows with all of them. Oh my gosh, that's incredible for me. It's just a wonderful, wonderful time.
Well, on the note of Peter Asher, just to tell everyone out there, and most people know that name, but a legendary producer, also a manager. He produced you. He produced James Taylor, Linda Ronstadt. I mean, we could spend all day listing off, but there's a very special track on there I really like. And this song, The Glory of Love, it's been done by so many people, from old-time crooners to Paul McCartney did it. Tell us about recording this duet with Peter Asher.
Well, I had asked if we might get a chance to do a duet together. And, Peter said, by all means. And, he came up with the song. He had heard, of course, we both had heard it through the years. I think it was probably written in the 30s. But he had heard a version of it by Sarah Jarosz and Matthew Millsap. And look at that puppy dog. Oh my God. Hello.
That's the neighbor's dog, and that was the source of that
wriggling.
Yeah. I just decided he should relocate for a bit.
He's a part of the show. Anyway, so we, Peter had heard Sarah Jarosz and Matthew Millsap do a version of the song, which he really loved, and so he turned me onto it, and I said, "Deal, let's do this." And yes, it's a real treat singing with Peter. He's a wonderful singer, and we do it live on the show as well, and it's a really nice point in the show to sing with him.
And you want to talk about variety. There's that song, which is, you could call that a standard, but then also you have songs from, the Exciters, a song made famous by Nancy Wilson. You're like a lot like me, and a lot like a lot of the people who are watching. You like all kinds of music.
That's it, Paul. I do. I can't really, I couldn't really say what kind of, music I sing, because there's all these different styles are so much fun to sing. And it's really all about the song, and I've that tune that Nancy Wilson made a hit out of, How Glad I Am. I heard that song over and over again on a record that I played. I think I wore out 2 copies of a Fontella Bass album called the new look. And she had a lot of great covers on that, including her song that she recorded and made a big hit with which was, "Rescue Me." And I just loved that song so much, and I was so grateful when Peter, thought it was a good idea, to do it for this record. But there are a lot of different types of songs. There's some folk, kind of oriented stuff. There's my song with my friends, the Ukuleles, that we do. It's a song written by my nephew Isaac Taylor about the Gayhead Lighthouse and living next to it. It's kind of a vineyard anthem kind of a song, and we're going to perform that song on Tuesday night at the Tabernacle in Oak Bluffs with the Ukuleles and this band. So that'll be fun. And then, of course, I've always sung that Staple Singers tune, that you Don't Knock, and that Etta James song, Stop the Wedding. I love singing those tunes. They're just downright fun to sing. And but yeah, so it surprises me. I've been hearing people say, "Oh, well, Kate, you're a soul singer," and I go, "Really?" It's just so surprising. But I do love to sing that type of material.
Last night, I went back and I listened to the Sister Kate album as well. And then I got carried away, which is something that I do a lot of times when I'm listening to music. And I have this habit, I will listen chronologically to someone's albums. I'll go back and sometimes it takes days, but when you think about the different albums that you have made, how do you view them all as a collective, as a whole?
Well, each one of them has its own special place in my heart. Of course, the Peter Asher Sister Kate record, and then the next record was it brings up all these memories. When I think about the Sister Kate record, I think about that time in Los Angeles, and that particular time, which was so exciting. All those folks were gathered in Los Angeles just on the cusp of these incredible careers that they all had. Jackson Browne, the Eagles, Linda, Joni, James, Carole King, and they were all there, and we were all sort of in this mix together. And so when I listen to Sister Kate and when I think about that, I'm reminded of that time. And then with the record, the next record I made, James produced in when we made it in New York City at the Atlantic Studios, because of the nature of the affection that players have for James, he called in a lot of amazing, wonderful musicians for that record, Stephen Gadd and Steve Ferrone and Ron Carter and Richard T. And I mean, it goes on, these incredible players. And so it makes me, I'm just so grateful I had a chance to work with James so, closely on that album. And then Columbia, my record label at the time, they, for the next record, Don DeVito thought that it would be great if I went down to Muscle Shoals and did a record. Who gets to go to Muscle Shoals and make a record? I mean, how lucky can one little rock and roller be to go to Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and play with that rhythm section? So that was an incredible experience. And then the next record, Beautiful Road, after the Muscle Shoals record, I did some more tours. I worked with brothers Alex and Huey on some shows. We had a band called Skin Tight, and I had my two greatest hits, namely my two daughters, Elizabeth and Aretha. And so that was kind of, my life for, happily for the years that they were coming up and growing, but the music was always kind of simmering in the background. And we had players that we worked with, and we got a chance to work with Arlen Roth, who plays guitar, and, Tommy Hambridge on drums, and the amazing Tony Garnier on bass. And we heard at one point that Bob Dylan was, Tony plays with Bob Dylan, and we heard that Dylan had been sidelined because he had this, some sort of a health issue. So we decided at that time that it might be a good idea to bring the band together and start a new record. That was like 95. And it then happily Dylan got better, and Tony was able to go, get back on the road with him. But so it took us a long time to finish that record. But that one has a special place in my heart because a lot of the songs that are on that record were written by my late husband, Charlie Witham. And he and Tony produced that record. And it was Charlie's mission. We realized he was, quite ill. And so it became his mission to finish this record. And so this one really has a special place for me because, because of Charlie and this kind of gift he gave to me, at the end of his life, to hopefully, launch me into, the sort of second chapter or whatever of my career, my singing career. So those songs were all beautiful. And then I did Fair Time, which is all songs that I wrote or co-wrote. And that has, a special meaning because, I hadn't done that before, all songs of mine. And then, to culminate right now in this sort of 50-year anniversary of Sister Kate with Why Wait, it just feels right. There's just something kind of perfect about it all.
Well, going into this current album, Why Wait, is there something that you want the listener, the person who's playing the album, is there something you want them to get from that experience of listening to it?
Well, we certainly wanted to deliver just the sort of the best performances that we could record for each of these songs. They're all so special. Each song has something special for me about it. When you mention that word joy, I really feel like that, maybe it wasn't a purposeful, it wasn't an intent, I didn't say, okay, I'm going to make a joyous album. But, I'm really glad that that is what, how you feel like describing it, because I think we need joy. I think people need to realize they can have it. They can have joy. And even in the midst of all this, the challenges that we have faced and will face, that joy has got to be part of it. And then when I look back on some of the interviews that I did, early on in my career, and people would say, well, what do you want to see happen? And I go, well, I want people to get up and dance. And, so I think that kind of continues. That's maybe a thread throughout the whole thing is, just want people to be able to enjoy themselves and enjoy music. And music really, can kind of unlock that in people. That's my hope.
This album feels to me like, if I had to describe it, the mood of the album, I would say, because I'm going to be going down to Florida tomorrow, this is the perfect album to listen to with your windows open.
Yes.
That's how it feels to me. So I'm going to definitely be playing it on the way down.
Oh, I love that. I think albums are it's so great to hear records in the car.
Yeah.
And top down, windows open, full blast, let it rip, and a long ride like down to Florida. That's great. That's great. I love that.
With all the different types of songs that you've done and just such an incredible range, who would you say the singers are that you admire the most?
There are so many. It's hard to list them all. But I guess the first people that come to mind are Otis Redding, Jackie Wilson, Sam Cooke, Aretha Franklin, Dionne Warwick, Fontella Bass, Mavis Staples, the Staples singers. I love harmonies. I love, families that sing together. I love, all that kind of thing. I mean, there's so many, and and the other, wonderful aspect about music is being able to hear it live. As much as recordings can bring you a lot, when you get to sit in the room and that bass is thumping away and the drums, and you're hearing it, and you're feeling you're witnessing, and you're participating in a communal experience with the musicians. There's nothing like it. I'm so grateful that we're able to get back to that, and I hope we can continue without too many more interruptions. To be able to get back to hearing live music together. I love that part of it. Experiencing the audience's reactions and feeding off of that, and I'm a big music fan. So I love to go and hear live music. It always gets me going.
I wanted to get your take. There are songs like The Glory of Love that have been around for decades. And it seems like every singer, Bob Dylan has done it, Rod Stewart has done it, Paul McCartney has done it, your brother James has done it. Everybody eventually gets around to recording at least a couple of the standards,
Yes.
or a full album like those people. What
Yeah.
do you think about what's commonly called the American Songbook?
Those songs that was such a golden era of songwriting, and um that material is just so impeccably beautifully written, and for music and for singers, not only for the audience but for the joy of the singer to be able to actually sing these melodies. And I don't blame any of those folks at all for wanting to dive into them, and I think it's important that we remember that material and pass it on, because that was the heyday of songwriting. Or it was a heyday of songwriting. But this is where composers were really thinking about the lyrics and thinking about how it gets delivered by with the human voice, and they're just beautiful songs. And I think that the up and coming songwriters and people who are starting out, composers and people who are starting out today, I think they really benefit from having fresh takes on these tunes, so they can move it forward, pass it on down, and it's one of the gifts that America has brought to the world. And I really think that it's wonderful to honor that.
Well put. Turning to your songwriting, I wanted to ask in specific about one of the songs that appears on this album. Tell us about the inspiration behind I Got a Message.
Well, I started writing that song when I met some of my friends are part of a group that studies Buddhism on the vineyard where I live. And when my husband died, we had a service for him at the gravesite, and my friends brought this Rinpoche, a Buddhist teacher from not even sure where it's Tibet, or I'm not sure where he's from, but the very beautiful, loving cat, and he gave a prayer for Charlie, for my husband, and we kind of struck up a friendship. And he came to a show I did, and we sometime later, and we talked to whenever he came to the island, I'd go and visit him, and he encouraged me to write a song. With some of the things that are written about in that song, and So I started putting it together, and then it ended up having these different little kind of segments to it. Um, but I think it really started with that Rinpoche, and um, I guess the first bit about it. I've got a message for you from your mother. From Mother Earth. Hey, we've got a job to do here, and I want and then it sort of moves on, and it's kind of stream of consciousness, I guess, a little bit, but that's it's sort of a patchwork quilt of a song of different things I wanted to talk about or I wanted to sing about.
There's a book over there on my bookshelf. The title of it, and I've always liked this book title. It's called Everybody Writes, and I think that that's a valuable thing to remember. Sometimes people like to put this label that writing is something that writers do. That's someone different than me. But just totally as a human experience, what do you think writing does for you?
I think being able to tell your story is really valuable and healing and um, illuminating. You get things into focus when you write, and there's something about it. I think writing is a lot like singing. I think it uses a different part of the brain, uh, and and you're and the fascinating thing is that everybody has a story to tell. We are all in this soup, and people, it's just extraordinary what people have endured and what they've gone through and what they feel and what things they've experienced. And I think writing really helps put it all into perspective, for people. And so I think that's wonderful that everybody writes. I think that everybody's a writer, and all you have to do is just sit down and do it. you know and uh um and it I think it's a very important gift we can give ourselves, yeah, to write.
You mentioned this song a little bit earlier, but uh, I'm hoping you can tell us. You mentioned that your nephew wrote this song, and it's the closing song on the album. Tell us a little more about him and this song, "Beams of the Queen."
Well, Isaac Taylor is an extraordinary young man. He has now a wife and a young family, and he lives in Gayhead, the town that I live in, and Quina, and he grew up there. He's an incredible singer. He's very, you know uh, his voice just takes you to another place, and he finds it's like a sacred thing for him to be on the stage and singing. He takes it. Uh, he has a lot of fun, but he takes it very seriously, and he's a wonderful songwriter. And he wrote this song about the Gayhead Lighthouse, which looks like the queen on the chessboard. So when he's talking about the beams of the queen, he's talking about the lighthouse looks like the queen, and that the beams are there, and the way he describes the place where he grew up, at the foot of the lighthouse, and the beams shining in his front door, and what it what it means to him. It really resonated with me, and I learned it. We kind of adapted it a little bit to play a simple, ukulele parts on it. And I have 4 friends on the vineyard, and we have this little group called the Ukuleles, and we play the ukuleles together, and we do this tune, and it's one of our greatest hits. So and I wanted to record the song for the record, and Peter was welcomed it, and we recorded the ukuleles, and doing the tune, and we put a little bit of ocean sound on there, and we get to talk about the lighthouse and Martha's Vineyard and what it feels like to be, to be from that place.
And Isaac is Hugh Taylor's son. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes. Yeah. Huey's my youngest brother.
Hugh was a guest on the show. I think he was on episode 98, and I couldn't figure out. I mean, he's just not as famous as the other brothers because I don't think he sought the fame. But I started getting thousands of downloads, and I thought, what is going on? This doesn't make sense to me. And then it was just head scratching. It was one of the more popular shows that I did. And I thought it's probably the combination of the fact that he hasn't really told his story very much.
Right.
And then I found out that James Taylor had shared that interview, and that was where all of this traffic was coming from.
Oh, isn't that great? Well, that's so great. Yeah, the magic of James's social media. Huey is fascinating. He's brilliant. They all are. These brothers are, the wonderful brains. They never cease to blow my mind. But yeah, Huey is just multi-talented. He he'll get an idea and then he just makes it happen, and and he's a wonderful singer. He's great harmony singer. He's got perfect pitch and great tone and lots of exuberance, and I love singing with him. It's really fun when I get it when we all can get together. And yes, I think he just has a lot of interests in his life. He fishes. For years he was a carpenter. He's run an inn for probably 30 years, and a restaurant, and he has a beautiful life and a wonderful family, and so we never really sought out the whatever this other thing is. It's Lily calls it, we're circus folk. And I think for me, I think, well, how come we all got so drawn to being on stage and stuff? And then I thought, well, being five kids who were born within a 6-year time frame, really the only way you could get a word in edgewise was to be on stage. So, Huey's an extraordinary human. They all are. Our brother Alex was an incredible singer, deep, soulful singer. And I mean, if he was on stage, he could forget about anything else. He was it. There was no ignoring that man. And a wonderful, wonderful talent. And we miss him. I miss him every day. Oh my God. We did have some opportunities to sing as a family, all together in public. And those I cherish those moments.
It was years back. I was on Radio Margaritaville, and I remember this was more than 10 years ago. You sent me some songs of Alex Taylor, and really, you are correct. Of course, an incredible blues singer.
Yes.
What a talent.
Rich and deep. And he was the one who kind of would sit us down and insist that we listen to the particular songs. A lot of the musical, exposure that we had. Of course, growing up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, is a university town. There was a lot of music that came through there. And being in the South, there was country, bluegrass, folk, and then the R&B and the blues and gospel and white gospel and Appalachian and, all these different influences, were just in the mix. But I can remember Alex just insisting that we listen to these different things. And one day I was probably 12 or 13, and he grabbed me and pulled me out to the carport. He sat me down in the car. He said, listen to this. And it was the Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand. That was a turning point.
What would you say is the best thing about being Kate Taylor?
that I get to talk to you.
That's sweet.
Well, let's see. What is it about Kate Taylor? You know, I'm just so grateful. My parents, I had the most extraordinary upbringing, when I look back on it and I think about what they brought to the table, what I got from my life through them, not only like physical stuff or whatever, but just sort of the creative things and you know different appreciations that they instilled in us for the arts. And I'm just grateful for all of that. And then to have these amazing brothers and my beautiful family, my daughters, um my friends, the wonderful place that I live, the home community I live in. I don't know. I'm just a lucky girl. I'm a very lucky girl.
Well, everybody is invited to visit katetaylor.com for more information and look for this album, Why Wait? It's going to be out August 6th. Is that
August
right?
6th. Yep,
August
yep.
6th.
People can pre-order it until then, and then it'll be on my website. And also, I got signed up with this wonderful record company, Compass Records, and I'm on their Red House label, and so we can get it through their labels too, through their website too. And yes, if anybody, gets it and wants to talk to me about it, I can be reached at kate@katetaylor.com. And I'd love to hear from you.
Kate@katetaylor.com. Oh, and one more thing. I remember also late last night, it was like at midnight, an email came in. People are going to be able to get this album on vinyl, which is a very important fact for a lot of people out there.
Yes, that's right. We have gone
Gotta-
vinyl. We've gone back to vinyl. Back to vinyl. Oh, that's great. That's
yes.
great. Yes, we've got it. We've got a limited edition on vinyl, and we're thrilled. It's the way to go. It's a wonderful to go back to vinyl. I'm so glad that's happening.
Well, I always like to end on a very open-ended note. I always like to give the guest the stage, and you could go anywhere. And keep in mind, a lot of times people will tune into these interviews. It'll be years from now, but what would you say to someone who is watching this or listening to this now, in the future, whenever?
Well, I would want to tell them to don't give up on your dreams. Uh, Take good care of yourselves. Um, Take good care of the planet and each other. We're very blessed to be, to have these lives that we have, and make the most of it, and and yes, follow your dream.
Beautifully put. Well, Kate Taylor, thank you so much. It's been a real honor and a pleasure to interview you.
I'm so glad that finally all the pieces came into place so we could have this little talk. Thank you so much, Paul.
My pleasure.
All right.